Pastor Ryan here as we come to week 4 of our Lenten study, Journey to the Cross. This week, as we consider what Dr. Paul Tripp has for us, to me, there's a summation of this week, and that is really the realization that we are not in control. We are not in control of ourselves. We sin against God in ways that are born of the fact that we are not reconciled to God, but rather we have been born with the nature of Adam, with this Adamic nature, this fallen nature. And so we are those who are prone to rebellion. We are those prone to do what we want in our way, rather than those who are being prone to obedience or prone to holiness. In fact, the church talks about this. There's two ways, really, that the church kind of couches this, whether you're more on a Reformed side or perhaps a more an Anglican side, kind of in the two houses of the way that we're built here together at UPC, the UCC and the UMC sides. They kind of come together, whether we say something like this, that this is what I grew up with in the Methodist Church, that we are inclined toward evil, and that continually, that we have a bent towards sinning. If you're more on the Reformed side, you may know the phrase or the theological tenet of total depravity, that we are depraved, that we are sin sick. That's the way the Eastern Orthodox talk about sin more as an illness with which we are stricken rather than individual actions that we take. And I think that's important for us to know, but we are not solely or we are not wholly in control of that. Rather, we are often slaves to sin, as Paul says to the church at Corinth. And so we battle that. We wrestle with that. And that's part of our need to ask for repentance and for forgiveness. Not only that, in this section, Dr. Tripp talks about surprise and just what it is that surprises us. That's day 18 in the book, if you're following along in the book exactly. And that is that there are things that happen to us that are beyond our control, and oftentimes we want to believe that we're in control or that we can create our own destinies. But oftentimes, really, we know that to not be true. There's a car accident that changes our plans for the day. We're all of a sudden stricken with an illness that we think will never come. Somebody close to us dies, and we are not in control of any of these things. There's international war or economic calamity that has nothing to do with our own personal finances or personal responsibility even. And so the question comes to us is, how do we, in the midst of all of this, view the sovereignty of God? How do we rely on the mercy and the grace of God in such a way that we're able to rest in Him? And I think that's what happens when he talks on day 20 about counting our blessings, about knowing that in the midst of all of this that is uncertain, there are certain things, certain promises that God has made to us. And so it should call us and to connect with God and to rely on God and to spend time with God and to relish our relationship with God. And that's really where day 22 leads us to, right? This idea of delighting in God for God's sake. This past Sunday, just yesterday, the text of the sermon, the gospel text, was what's generally called the parable of the prodigal son. But really, there's two prodigal sons. There are two sons who have not treated their father in such a way where they valued a relationship with their father over and above the stuff that the father could give them. One son squandered it, and one was so tight with it that he didn't even understand the blessing that he had. The older brother didn't. And he refused even to relax and delight in the joy of being with the Father and of his Son returning home. So my question to you as we go through this Lenten journey is how do we delight in the Lord in the midst of uncertainty in the created order, knowing that the promises of God will be fulfilled because God is faithful. That is His nature and that is His character, to give us love and to show us mercy. God bless.